In this video, I'm going to share 3 things I wish I knew before working in church production. My name is Joe. I've been leading church production teams for the last 7 years or so, and I love my job. I love what I get to do. It is extremely fulfilling getting to work for the church I'm at. I love being a part of something bigger than myself, and I love getting to share Jesus with people. But there are definitely things I wish I would have known before coming into this career. And I wish somebody would have sat me down and said, hey, I think you need to think about these things. And so that's what this video is. If you're like me and you came in, out of a different career, you didn't work at a church, you didn't work in a career where you had to work with audio and video and lighting. This is me now 7 years into this going, I think you need to know this if you're looking at transitioning into working for church and working in church production. So the first thing I wish I would have known, being brand new to this field and never working in church production ever, is that the learning curve is steep. I came in working from IT, and I probably came into working my first church job a bit overconfident, thinking that I'd be okay because I had all of this technical knowledge and knew how to troubleshoot and all of that. It is different. You don't know what you don't know. And I learned that the hard way, literally on my first weekend. The speaker processor died in the middle of worship. Sound stops coming out of the PA, and I start kind of panicking because I don't know how anything is routed. And so I end up calling my predecessor, who graciously came in, helped me diagnose the issue. We bypassed the processor, got audio up and running for the next service. But that was a very sobering moment for me to go, oh man, this is going to be steep. This learning curve is going to be a thing. So what do we do about this lack of knowledge and this feeling of like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I don't know anything. Well, the first thing is have grace for yourself. It's going to take time. You're not going to be able to just pick this up in 5, 10, 15 minutes. This is a long journey of accruing knowledge over, years. I've been in this 7 years. There's plenty I don't know. The second thing I would say is mentally prepare for learning either within work hours or outside of it. A lot of my learning had to happen outside of work hours because I'm busy doing other things during work hours. How I would go about doing it was identifying, okay, this issue came up this week. I need to dive into that more so I better understand it. So it could have been Dante, it could have been some video routing issue or lack of knowledge on hardware. I'd have to go look that up either in the moment as it's happening and learn then, or I'd have to get home after work and dive into it more. Now, there are great learning resources on YouTube. Obviously, you're watching one of them right now. But there's also like MXU is a subscription service that you can pay for. They dive into all kinds of topics. And then there's also Production Online is another one that I use. And so that's an option. There's also manufacturers who are posting like training on their equipment or whatever they're making. So like Audinate with their Dante product, and then like ETC for lighting consoles and anything, architectural or whatever. They have stuff over there. So one thing I want to just bring up that I think is really important is that people are going to bring things to you to solve that you aren't necessarily going to know how to fix. And just full transparency, I'm in 7 years now. I don't know how to fix every single problem that somebody brings to me. And usually my response in that moment is, I actually don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. That gives the person who's having the issue confidence to know that I'm owning it. I'm on it. I'm going to figure it out. Most of the time I find that people don't really care that I don't know. They just care that I'm going to figure it out. I think it's a natural human thing to want to be able to provide somebody an answer to something when they're asking us in that moment, like be able to be like, oh, I know what that is. Here it is. That's rarely the case. And I would encourage you to be okay to say, I'm not sure, but I'm going to figure it out. Take ownership of it so that you can help the person who's having that problem feel like you are owning it for them. The second thing I wish I knew was that relationships matter far more than I thought they did. I have social anxiety. I have had social anxiety as long as I can remember, and it's really, really hard for me to build new relationships with people. I get very uncomfortable, get a little clammy. I don't know what to say. I don't want to look foolish. I don't want to sound stupid. And this has just always plagued me. You see those people that just seem to have it so naturally and so easy that they can build relationships with people. Kind of envy that, if I'm being honest. I have relied on my knowledge and my skill and the quality of work to get me by in my working career, thinking that then I don't have to necessarily have deep relationships because the work is speaking for itself. That is not true, and I've learned that the hard way. There have been several situations where I've had conversations with people and they walked away from their conversation with me feeling terrible. I made them feel bad. I made them feel like an inconvenience. I made them feel like, they were less than. I would argue that relationships are more important than the quality of work. They both are important, but nobody's going to actually care about the quality of work if you made them feel like trash after walking away from a conversation with you. So what do we do about this? Don't be a jerk. That's the first thing I'll say. It doesn't matter if you're mad at them because they did something incorrectly. Maybe they broke some equipment. Treat them with love and with dignity and teach them and guide them. Let's educate them kindly. We don't have to be rude about it. The second thing I'd say is get to know them. Get to know that student pastor, take them out to coffee or, schedule a short meeting with them and just ask them how they're doing. Ask them what's important to them in their ministry. What are they trying to achieve? What are their goals in their ministry that you can help partner with them in? And the third thing here is if you're like me and you have social anxiety, it's going to be uncomfortable, but through uncomfortability comes growth. The only way that we can grow and we can get better is by being uncomfortable. So leaning into that and knowing as we go in, this is going to be uncomfortable, but if I can make it through this and I can push through this, I'm going to grow. The third thing I wish I would have known was always have a backup plan. Things break. Services go off the rail. It happens. What do you do when it happens? Find those critical things where man, if this dies or if this thing happens, we're sunk, right? Prepare for it. Think through it before you get there so that when you get there, you already have the plan in place to get through it. The example I used in the first point of that PA processor dying. I know now if that processor dies, guess what I'm doing? I'm bypassing the processor. I'm going straight into the amps off the console. That I have that in my head to know, yep, if that happens, this is where we're going. There's a saying, preparation prevents poor performance, right? Thinking through what you would do in the worst case scenario, especially in a live setting and you're putting on a live event, for lack of a better term, knowing what you would do in that situation if the worst happens is great practice to ensure that you're eliminating distractions and preventing them from happening in the first place. So what do we do about this? First thing, think critically and ask the question, if this fails, do we have a backup plan? And if you do not have a backup plan, think through one, right? An example for us, we live stream to our campuses. If our broadcast campus is running long and it looks like we are not going to get the message to the other 4 campuses in time, we have a backup plan for that. We have a recording of the message that the campuses can take at all times to ensure that there is always a message ready to go at all of our campuses. The second thing I would do is, if you can afford it, and not for all gear, but for some gear, buy 2 of them. We use Blackmagic HyperDecks. They work great. We love them. Fairly cost effective, easy to use, easy to program. They do tend to die rather quickly. And so I've had some last as little as a year. I've had some last 2-3 years. They're relatively inexpensive for what they are and what they do. If you can afford to buy 2 of them, just so you have a backup, buy 2 of them. Also for Blackmagic devices, make sure you leave 1 RU of space in between each Blackmagic device to make sure they don't overheat because they get hot. So those are 3 things I wish I knew before I started working in church production. If you found this content valuable, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.